Hi, welcome back to Infinity Coders channel. Today in this video, we're going to look how do we set up first time Android Studio for new developers trying to learn Android development in 2026. So without further ado, we will actually go into where do we download the Android Studio, how do we set up, and how do you create your first application. So without further ado, let's start with going into the basic what you need, and then let's look into downloading the Android Studio development. Let's Now to download the Android Studio, you will just have to go into your Google, and then say if you guys don't have the tab, just go into here, just type in Android Studio. You can see it in the drop down. Click on the first drop down, download Android Studio. Click on it. Then now you will actually get the installer. So there are many new features that Android have been introduced. So you guys can actually go into here and click on download Android Studio. So there will be a bunch of terms and conditions. We'll go through the terms and conditions. And once you have agreed, then download the needed version for Windows. So yeah, I have to wait until the download is completed. Meanwhile, if there's anyone doing it not for Windows, if you guys are actually downloading it for Mac, there is a version that can be used for Mac. So here's the Windows version, and here's below is the Mac version. So depending on your OS for your PC, please download the correct version that is needed. Right. So now the download have completed. So now we will proceed to install the SDK, emulator tools, and the build setup automatically. So let's just click on this and then let the download happen. So for me, because I had an older version of Android Studio already running, so if you are on your new time, you will not be prompted with this screen and will be prompted to the direct screen. But yes, in my case, I do have an older one, so I do have to uninstall first and then to make the installation for the new Android Studio version. All right, so this is what you'll look once you have the Android Studio launch. Just click on next. These are all the selected options, and then where do you want to install? Please remember the location. Click install, and then just create. So this may take around few minutes. So it depends on your PC's RAM and also your storage space. Right. So after you have installed, just click on running the Android Studio. So I click finish, and then it will open up the Android Studio. Yep. The new one is called Author. So every single release will have a different naming. So this I don't need. So, yeah. So there are some installation types. So what you want to install. I'm not really customized using the standard one. So this is the space. I need Android Emulator SDK tool. So it will help me to install. So once the installation have completed, click on finish. So this is how it will look for your project when you try to launch it. So with this, we have completed the installation process. So before I move on to creating your first Android application, there's one thing that you always have to remember when you're setting up the Android Studio. Do set up your Android Studio file path declaration correctly in the environmental variable. So let's say if I go in here, I go and edit my system environmental variable. So if you click on here, so here, please do check. Make sure you set your Java home where what's your JDK version that you like to use. And you do also have to set out what's your Android path that you are going to be using. So in here, I have set my Java. I already created as Java home, and I already set it to pick up from using Android Studio JBR. But if I like to use a higher Java home, I can download it manually, and I could just update the location to point it to there. Inside the part, I'm also declaring the root of my Android Studio where I'm actually going to use it from. So now, without further ado, yes, let's look into how do you create your first app and create your first app build and then deploy to the emulator to run your first application. So when Android Studio open for the first time, it could be a bit overwhelming, but you don't have to worry too much. So let's say now I'd like to actually create a new project. So let's say I'm going to first time, I'm creating a new project, and then I could just choose an empty activity here. So I'm just going with an empty activity. I click on this is symbol is for Jetpack Compose. Let's go with a bit more simple, which is not Jetpack, which is empty view activity. I click on next. Feel free to give any name. I could just give it as my first uh, testing app. Okay, so it updated my package name. Yeah, there's a location, there's Kotlin. So my language could be Java or Kotlin. So let's say I'm just going with Kotlin. Choose your API. So it could be the most latest 24, which is quite used for Android 7, or you can choose the most latest, which is meant for Android 15, which is vanilla stream, or bug level, which is for Android 16. So I'm just going with the 16. And I'm trying to, because it's Kotlin, I'm trying to use Kotlin DSL to build my configuration. So with that, just hit on finish. So it will create for you your first empty activity that we could automatically, it will create a structure for us, and we can use that structure to enhance it to create our application further. So it's pretty like a template, and it's much easy for us to like just click on it and then just edit it later on and deploy to check out our settings. Right, so it has finished. So now it will actually open up the activity. So the very first time, it may take some time depending on your PC hardware setup. And if it's having a lower RAM, then it will may take more time because uh, Android Studio really takes out of the RAM depending on it. So you may need a bigger RAM if you would like to make things much faster or smoothly for the build time and also to execute anything. So you can see here the blue color is still running. So let it finish first. So meanwhile, we are working on this. Let's explore some of the interface that Android Studio have. So yeah, so it could be a bit overwhelming here. So let's just go with a simple breakdown how it works. So you could right now it's still complaining. That's the reason you can still only see a project view, and these are the other views. But the most important will be project view, which you can view your structure of where's your files. And this is also located in this location where I'm actually saving my application. Right. But in here, you can see there's like a lot of tabs that may help you to organize. So you do have project panel, which is this is the one I was explaining, which is your files. You do have your editor window. So this is your editor window, that main activity or something. This is my editor window. And you do have like toolbars here that will help you to find. So let's say if you go into run, it will help you to run or build your application later on. Build is to assemble your projects or build your file, and this is to install into your emulator or execute what you have. And one important thing is while we are doing things, sometimes we may get some errors and you try to do some troubleshooting. Just make sure that you have a logcat here. This is very useful when you're trying to troubleshoot what's going on, where the error is. Okay, it's very useful. This is the terminal so this is the PowerShell terminal that we can use, right? So by end of this video, you should be familiar, and as you keep developing, you will get familiar with the uh, uh, interface itself. So now we can actually see the compilation or syncing, we can call it syncing, have finished the first time I launched the Android Studio. So now, without further ado, let's actually create this first Android app that it actually have created for us. But let's go into some of the important files and understand what Android Studio have created for us. So here now, just now as example, there's a project, and now after the sync happen, you can see there's an Android. So Android means that now you will only have the view of how the Android gives the structure once it done the syncing. So in here, when you guys go, you can see there's a manifest, there's a resource file, there's all the Gradle scripts. So every single module that we are going to create, it will have its own Gradle script. So let's just go into the logic first. So let's say if I go into my manifest, so if we can see here that this is my first setting app, that's the name of the app. But the main thing is where is the so every time we go into a code, we always try to find where do I have to start, where how's the code actually working. The very first most thing is you have to refer to your manifest and then find out what is your first activity whenever you try to launch an Android application. So in this case, this is my main activity, and this is the intern action called main. So you can have under this application, you have many other what do you call many other activities, but this action main will be only for one single activity. That will be the one launching when you install your application. Right. So the first thing is this is what the main activity is. So when I click on it, so I just control click on it, I will go into my activity. So this is where you have all your activity logic. Let's say you want to show a string, or you want to like have a buttons, or you would like to show something. So this is where you do your code logic. Let's say I click on a button, I need to show up something. I need to go to a next activity. So here's the place that controls everything. Now, how about the view? What goes into the view? How do we look at the view? So for that is where you do your UI layout, which is this part. So here you can see my UI. When I control click on it, I can see there's a hello world. So, but if I go into here, I can see my view and my code. So you can see here this hello world. I could change this to maybe let's say uh 2026 new application uh testing. So you can see it's updating my text here. Right, maybe it's not so clear because it's quite small, but if later we will try to go in, but you can see there's like a string there right now. Right, so this is for the UI layout. Okay, next is Android manifest I already show. That's for your app config. And then finally, you need to declare your dependency or SDK that you like to run this entire code later on. For that, do go into, so this is the overall build gradle that you need to declare, where this could be shared across different modules later on. So this is for the, let's say this is for the modular app. I could have multiple modular later on. So let's say this for app. So I'm having app. So what is the compile SDK version we are using? We are using 36 because we like to run on Android 15. So my compile SDK could be higher, but my target SDK could be always lower. So that means it's only targeted to a specific Android version. You try to install it in a higher Android version, it will never work. So throw some errors. My minimum is 35, but my target SDK is 36. Okay, so that's what I'm compiling it against with. This is if you want to deploy your application to Play Store. So every single time you like to deploy, you need to up your version one level. If it's minor, just update your version code. If it's going to be a major, then you need to update your 1.0 become 2.0.1. So this is your Java version, and this is the dependencies that I'm currently using. So I hope this just gives a very brief understanding of the files, how it works overall together. Now, since Android already created everything for us, let's try to launch this particular application in the emulator. So now let's try to run this app, see how it looks. So before running, what we have to do is make sure you already sync everything. So anyway, it opens, so it's already synced for me all my files. then first thing you need to go and do is try to build your application. So building application, you could either create as compile, or you can just assemble your project. So depending on what we feel is easier, we can generate. So for me, I'm just trying to just generate APKs, for example. I like to generate APK. So I'm trying to build. Let me just go into my device manager. So here you can see I already had a emulator created for me called Android 15. But if you don't have, you can go here and create your virtual devices. So it may take some time because I'm still running my build generate the APK out. So let it to compile the APK first. Yeah, so there's a lot of what you call there's many. So you can create your emulator as phone, tablet, even your watch, desktop. So which form of devices you like to run, just go ahead and choose. This is the Android Play Studio. Let's say if you choose any one of it, do check what is the API. So if I'm going with 30, you will have to meet the 35, at least the minor version to actually able to run your application. Since mine is 35, I'm going with 35. And once you click on next, you are able to choose your example, you're able to choose what's your Intel version. So this my API is 36, but I can choose as 35. My services, I could go with Play Store APIs or Android sources, and then you can choose what else you actually need. 35, and then you can give a specific naming. You can also create as an additional settings. So let's say I create as app, then I choose as Android 15. Let's say I just go with Play Store. You can choose it as, or I just go with Google API. And since I'm going to run on 13, you should use this recommended by the system itself. So if you don't have it yet, you click on it, you will install that particular API for you. Since I don't have the Google API on 35, so I'm just trying to install it. So now the API have finished downloaded. So now I'll just go and complete it with finish. So once you have finished, you can see, so my APK is also done, created. So you could click on the locate, it will open up as my APK generator. So every time, let's say you have created so APK means just treat it as your output file. So basically, where is it is, let's say, just now I said this one is the app, the module. So inside the module, go to the build, you can go to your output file, APK, debug, you can see this is my output file. So this output file is the one that, if you check correctly, this is one, but what we declared. This is my application ID, and when you when you declare your output, you actually declare where do you save it as. All right. So now let's try to deploy this into this particular test app. Okay. So one way is, let's say I'm here, I can just click on choose test app. I can just click on hit on the play button. So it will try to launch the emulator directly, and you can directly see that it will launch your application with the new wording that we have created. 26 new application testing. So once it launches, you're actually able to see it. So now here you can see the emulator have successfully launched, and now you can see here there's that app that actually have been launched. So let's say if I so basically it's touchable. So yeah, but it's pretty small. You can see, right? So it's almost similar to our phone navigation. Sometimes it's very hard here, so I just click on here to go back to home. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty slow because it's quite heavy, the file. So since my laptop is only like 16 GB, so it's a bit slow. So you can see here, this is my application that I have flashed in my first testing. So how I know the name, as I said from the manifest, um, we can check what's the application name. So if you guys check here, the application name was my testing app. So if you launch this, it will come back to the screen just now, whatever we had. 2026 new application testing. Okay, so let me with this actually successful. We have actually launched our first application, so it's already running. And let's say if you deploy it in an actual device, it will show up almost the same screen. So let me show the other way. Okay, let me close this first. Okay, since usually when you launch it from the device manager directly installed into the Android emulator, it just takes up your space here because you have a view here and then you also have to do your coding. And yeah, so when you have more files, more things going on, this may seem like it's actually taking up your space. So there's one way we can actually launch Android emulator standalone without really going through the device manager. So now let's look into how do you do that. So I just go into my command prompt, CMD. Yes, you do put not use command prompt, go directly to it, but I prefer command prompt. So you can just go into CD app data. So this is the location where the SDK is being installed. CD app data, CD local, CD Android, CD SDK. Okay. So if you go into emulator, so now what will happen is I'm using a command called emulator. So I take my emulator name that I've created, test app. So I'm trying to launch it as emulator dot. So emulator slash avd. This is my app name. So there's few more optional commands that you can add in, but let's say I'm just going with this and then test app, click enter. So what will happen now is it will launch the emulator, but now you can see the emulator is not launched inside the Android Studio space. I'm having the emulator as a standalone completely at the side here. Yeah, so what's the benefit is I could move this to any screens I have and I could still do my development here. So it's pretty easy for us to do the workaround. Okay. So yeah, I think same thing, just I just launch it, so it's taking some time. So if there's any errors or anything, you could definitely see it from here. There's some errors or anything going on. But seems like everything is fine. So it just takes some time to loading it. Okay. So I hope this is very easy for us to run the verification or help us to do for the changes. You could also do a drag and drop from the output file. So you see this is the APK generator. You can just basically just drag the file and then drop it into here. It comes with a port number. So let's say if you were launching more than one emulator, I have to launch 2 or 3, yes, but which is the target I want to install it to? So you could define it through the port number, which is target installation that you like to happen. Yeah, it may take some time because it's loading for the very first time, but yeah, the output file is almost the same as what I've shown just now. It's just that now it's trackable and droppable. So with this, I hope it's easy for you guys have learned something of how to launch an Android emulator and how do you compile your code and then flash it into the emulator to run your first application. So with this, there are also common errors that will happen throughout the, for example, like gradle sync error. You can refer to my previous videos if you like, if you encounter any gradle sync errors or anything. If you do like to me to cover a video on that, do drop in the comment. We are able to cover part of it. So errors are normal. Learning to fix them is also a part of become a better development. So with this, if you do like the video, do hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And please comment if you find which video you feel will be useful for the upcoming videos. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.